Hello, my name's Jay, and this is War Table, a printing and painting channel. This is a medic I printed from Maker's Cult a long time ago, and I've used him basically for airbrush practice, and he's been great for that. So I decided to print another one and just go ahead and paint him up. I want to see how he looks. I'm going to do a conversion too. It's not going to be completely with parts from that Maker's Cult kit. So, first thing I had to do, of course, is go to my Maker's Cult subscription and find him and print him out, get him loaded up into Litchi Slicer, and put him out there on the platform there and get it all arranged and set up and print it, which didn't take too long, about a couple hours to print this stuff out on my Anycubic Photon Mono 4. It's definitely a good printer. It prints nice quality pieces fast. I like it a lot. It was fairly cheap when I got it, so it was a good deal. Anyway, so on to the printing. All right, we got them arranged on our platform now. I usually overlap them a little bit like that just because when you scrape them off, they all come off in one piece. It makes it easier to get it off sometimes. And then you can just snap them apart real easy. So that's the way I usually like to do it. I don't know. If you guys do it a different way, let me know in the comments below on how you like to set up your plate. All right. So here it is printing. There it goes. I wish it really printed that fast, but yeah, that was time lapse. So I usually use some cork I got from Staples. You can get these cork tiles pretty much anywhere, but I think that's where I got these a long time ago. I got a pack of them. I think there was 4 or 5 of them in the pack. I can't remember how many exactly, but those tiles have lasted me a while. I've done so many models with just that pack of tiles. It's definitely a good deal to get that. All right, so we're going to put some super glue on his feet and stick him to these pieces here. Oops. Don't want to drop that on the side with the glue. That's for sure. There you go. So got them glued down now. And we're going to get the other pieces started here. Let's file them down so that they stick together real good. It basically roughs it up so that the super glue can seep into the cracks, and plus there's little pieces of chipped plastic that come off when you do that that help just melt into the other pieces. That helps form a better bond when you do it like that. All right, there we go. Nice little dollop on there. And just hold it together for a few seconds and let the time do its thing. I usually like to try to make sure it's lined up on all sides real good before I stop moving it. All right. Next, we're going to do his arms and head. A little dollop in there for his head. Now, I'm going to use a spare head from a Space Marine pack I have. All right, get it nice in position there. Want it to be a little side, like he's giving a little side look. This is another piece from it's a Imperial Fist Extras uh, sprue pack I bought that has some extra different pieces just for Imperial Fists. And this, I think, was for a sergeant's arm or something with a pistol. So I'm just going to use that for his pistol arm. Get that on there. Hold her together nice and tight. There we go. Let that sit there and do its thing. All right, next we're gonna put it's a Terminator chain fist from an old Terminator metal kit from years ago. First, I'm gonna drill some holes in here, or a hole in here, and then use a piece of FDM printer um, spool to pin this thing together. Get that in there real good. There we go. And then just make sure it looks like it's going to line up good. All right, next is a backpack that I found um, in a set. I don't even know where this back. A buddy of mine gave me a command set pieces he had, and it had a medic's backpack. So we're gonna get this hump off the back of this current piece and stick that backpack on there. I'm just using my big file to just cut through that hump real quick. Just keep doing it, making sure it's flat, looking nice and smooth. Make sure it looks like it's going to line up properly. That's the most important thing, is to get it good and lined up. Almost got it. Couple more just to make sure it's nice and smooth more than anything. There we go. All right. That's pretty off camera. Sorry about that. It's looking good though so far. So the glue and stick that on there. Nice. That's what we want. Just a nice smooth fit. All right. This way you can see in the green translucent what was printed, and the rest of the pieces are from old kits left over in the sprue box. All right, so now I'm going to take some wood glue and dump that out on a piece of paper. And then I use some broken up pieces of coca core fiber from a coca core brick that I got in a 3-pack that will last me forever. And that's what I use to put on the bases to get the groundwork done. It just helps blend everything together real good. As you can see there, it looks a lot nicer like that. Next, we're going to take our airbrush and some white airbrush primer, and we're going to airbrush this guy up real good. Now with airbrushing, the most important thing is to make sure you always clean your airbrush really good when you're done. That's the key thing to using an airbrush. If you do not clean it, you got to be crazy about cleaning it, because if you do not, you will ruin the airbrush. It will build up paint in it and you won't be able to get it out. Now, I do have a kit that helps clean it, and it might be able to help get some of that stuff out if you were to do something like that. But still, it seems like once that paint starts building up in there too much, it's just hard to get it out. And I just buy cheap airbrushes. I don't even buy the expensive ones. I buy the $10 to $20 airbrushes I find online, and they always seem to work just fine for me, because I mostly just use them for priming or putting on a base coat, and I don't use them for any real fine detail work or anything like that. So I don't need a real expensive airbrush. Now, if you're wanting to do probably fine detail work or something, you might want to get a more expensive airbrush. But to me, these cheap airbrushes are great for priming up miniatures. And then that way, if you do end up messing up your first airbrush, you don't mess up a really expensive airbrush. You mess up a cheap airbrush. And you can get another one for like 10, 20 bucks. And just use the old one for parts. So there's how you want to do that if you have to. So we got um, our Uthern Gray, which is my favorite color for um, what you doing base white. So that's what we're going to start with for the base white on this. We're just going to get them all covered up with Uthern Gray. All right. The main thing with base coat is just hit it real good and easy. Don't keep working the paint. Just get it on there. Let it sit and dry. That's the most important thing is to just put, it don't matter how bad it looks at first, just let it sit and dry. It'll dry nice and smooth and even, and then hit it with another coat. And then that's how you get that nice smooth look. See, just let her sit. She dries out. We do another one. All right, so now we're gonna go with a tundra brown for the base. I like to usually use a tundra brown or maybe a Rhinox hide or something like that for just, or even I have some apple barrel dark brown that I'll use, especially for um, scenery, especially because scenery tends to use a lot more paint and it's bigger, so you can use that a lot easier for stuff like that. It'll cover it real good, and you can get a lot more for the price. Especially Citadel paints tend to be pretty expensive, but those apple barrels, you can get a big bottle of that for a couple bucks, and that'll last you a lifetime of painting miniature bases. Um, I usually water it down real good for the first coat, just so it gets really down in those cracks and stuff real good, because you don't want any of that white showing. And that's the best way to start killing all that is just throw as much watered down brown as you can on there. And it'll go in there and get all those cracks and crevices real good. Take your time. You don't want to hit your model because that white's, it's hard to get it back to pure white like that. And we don't want it pure white anyway, but we don't want it brown either, obviously. Although later we might want to put a little bit on the shoes just to give it a look like he's been walking through the mud a little bit, but we don't want it to be random. We want it to look, proper. So just easy does it. You are going to build up some pieces of junk on your brush. Use an old big brush to do this kind of stuff. You don't want to use a good brush because it's going to get a lot of crap in it, mess it up. All right. So Apothecary White is a good color for shading your Uthern Gray. You just take this stuff. I used to use watered down Russ Gray, and this is very similar to that. So you don't have to do it yourself. It just comes already watered down, basically. I think it's probably very similar. That's probably what they use, honestly. But it does look really good on the white. It's going to give you those nice little subtle gray shades in your white. Just, work it gently, lightly. You don't want to overdo it. If you do get too much, like I had there, I just pull a little bit off and then put it somewhere else. You just want to work around the model, finding all the spots that look like they're going to have some gray for the shading, especially down in these cracks and crevices of the boots, around that kind of stuff there, on the bottoms of things, around the sides. Just work it as gently as you can. Don't want to overdo it or get too much on your brush. Just enough to put a nice little line on there of gray shade. All right. So we got shaded now. We're going to use a little bit of this Tesseract Glow technical paint. And I've already done it. You can see the yellow spots. It comes out real good. Looks great over that white. It's really good for doing lights and things like that, or anything you want that looks like it's almost glowing. Okay, so we got some Mephiston red, one of my favorite base reds. And then I'm just going to throw some of this on here. It's going to be a great contrast to the white. And it kind of gives you that medic feel. Let's get our brush just right. Get the tip nice and pointed. Find out what we want to put red on here. We're going to go with these canisters on his side here. Just make those look red. Make them pop out a little bit. Go right up to the edge. Just be real careful. You don't want to hit your white. Just work one coat on there as quick as possible. Remember, the main thing is not to overwork your paint. You got about 2-3 seconds after you get it on there to kind of move it around and then leave it alone, because it'll start getting tacky and show your brush lines. But if you just get it on there, it'll smoothly go on and dry smoothly. And that's what you're trying to achieve. The airbrush is the way to get the smoothest looks, because it obviously puts a nice smooth coat on there. But, when you're brush painting, you can't do that. So you need to just slap it on and let it dry. And if you need to, go back over with a second coat later. And usually this paint don't take long to dry. While you're working the next color, probably the last colors are drying. And if you got a wet palette, which I highly recommend, if you do not have a wet palette, go get you a wet palette immediately. It's probably the best thing you can get for painting. It helps you keep your paints at a consistent point, and you can pull out as much as you want onto the palette, so you don't have to let your paint sit in those barrels dripping and causing problems with closing them, which I hate how Citadel designs those. I wish they just had a screw-on cap. I think everybody probably does. That design's specifically made to waste paint. All right, so we're just picking out some areas of red. All right, so we're going to go with some Thousand Suns blue next. Another nice base blue. This I'm going to just put into the eye sockets, just to give it a nice blue look in there. I like how that looks with the white. And I usually do most of my Imperial Fists with blue eyes, because it goes good with the yellow. Just work it in there and be careful. All right, so now this is some Seraphim Sepia, and we're going to use this on the shoulder pad here, and any skulls on him. He's got a little skull on his forehead there. We're going to put this on this whole thing here. And the idea I had is that this guy used to be a Terminator who became a medic, and he kept his chain fist and his Terminator honors, which I looked up could totally be legit in the lore. It could totally be possible that that kind of thing could happen in the ranks of the Space Marines. So I thought that was pretty cool. So here's my little conversion of that idea. All right. Just want to work that in there real good. Get it in there, you know. Don't let it pull up too much or drip down on anything else, because if you do, that's what's going to happen if you ever do it. You just want a little bit. That's why I use a little brush for um, putting down shades like this. And yes, I did make the painting handle there with my Neptune 4 Elegoo printer. That was one of the first things I printed. It's two pieces, and then you just use, I found it on Thingiverse. I'll try to find the link to it and put it in with this. It's a free print on there. It's great. It works great. It'll save you like 20, $30 on a Citadel one. You just put a couple rubber bands on it to make it hold it tight around stuff, and it works awesome. It doesn't do super big models. It'll only do like up to like Terminator size bases, I think. But still, it'll do. And it won't do the super tiny bases either. I think it just does the 32s. But you could always print it out at a different size too. I've thought about doing that. Making one bigger and one smaller for bigger stuff and smaller stuff. Maybe that'll be one of the next projects I do. All right, so now we got some Corvus black here, and we're going to put this on some of these pipes and things. I like using Corvus black because it's a matte black. It's not a glossy black. So it isn't going to be too shiny or anything when it dries. And it's not like super dark black. It's more of a lighter black. And then after that, I'd probably use a little bit of like Dark Reaper and Ashen Gray to highlight it a little bit and shade it out. Probably for this we're just going to do most of the basic work. Because this is already going to be probably an hour-long video just showing you how to do the paint job without getting into too much fine detail stuff. Which honestly, you don't even have to do. If you're really just making these guys to play a game with, and you're not really entering them into some kind of painting competition or something like that, you don't have to like make them look like, you know, the most amazing work of art ever. It's just got to be good enough for the table, which this will be definitely good enough for the table, you know. It's a nice area there. Put a little black in just because it's dark there. That's the other thing. Use black in some of your crevices and things like that you really want to put a extra dark shade. Just always being real careful, you know, not to hit anything else. And if you do, it's no big deal. You can always fix it. It just takes time. That's the thing. The less you hit, the less mistakes you make, the faster you'll be able to paint up a miniature and get to the next one. So you can create an army, because I think in the long run, most people play this game and paint these miniatures for that purpose, or that's their ultimate goal, of course. And of course, you do want it to look really good, but at the same time, give yourself some slack, especially if you're just starting out. You gotta learn. You know, it takes years to learn how to do this stuff just right, and you'll learn a lot of little tricks along the way, like how to keep your camera in focus. I need to work on that. All right, just keep working your paint. That's the thing. Gently, easily, not too much, just enough to get it on there where you want it, and then leave it till it dries. See, I was able to go back to this, so it had dried at this point. You can work it again. That's what I said. After you've worked a little bit of the other areas, go back to the stuff you first started to get that second coat. See, now it's looking a lot darker there. Here's where we started. Go ahead and get that nice and second coated so that it'll look real good. Nicely done. All right. See if we see anything else that we want to put any black on. Yeah, let's do the gun. That's gonna. I'm eventually gonna put some lead belcher on this, but when I put lead belcher down, I usually like to put it over black. It doesn't always cover white the greatest or look right, and usually it'll show up on black great, especially if you're trying to do like a dry brush of it or anything like that. You see, I did that skull first, so now when I do the black, any of the skull shade that might have seeped around the sides too much, I can cover up with the black. And this is still Corvus black. Okay, get that other side there. All right. Looking good. The other thing I'll probably put some black on is the chains of the chain fist. So that when I go to um, I usually like to put a copper or a brass or something like that for the chains on a chain fist. It just makes it usually pop out nice. And again, metals usually always seem to look better when you put them over top of black. So I like to put a coat of black on first before I put any metal down. All right. Again, just work it as quick as you can into those cracks and crevices and let it sit. Even if you don't get it all perfect at first, the more you let it sit and dry, the better, so that you don't mess it up. Yeah, like I'm going back into where that had already just dried. Get the little areas on that I missed. So always looking around your model, working around it, looking for areas you might have missed or something else that might need a little bit of the color you're currently working with. Going with the black on the handle. butt of the gun. Sorry about that angle there. I got to work on some of those things when I'm filming. I didn't want to just totally edit it out either, because this is getting into more of the fine painting of it. See, that's all dried, so I can go back into that real quick and then let that go. Now we're going to go on to our green. Nice moot green, nice bright green. It's going to really pop and show off some stuff on this. All right. We'll put a little on this little vial thing here. Some kind of liquid he has on him of some sort. Or gene seed, maybe. Who knows? There, that looks nice. There's so much you can do. That's what's so great about this. It's all about how much you want to do with it, how creative you want to be. You know, so many color choices, options, ideas. Let's put some on these tubes back here. That's going to make that look like it's some kind of goo that comes through there and goes around to the front, is used for some purpose, for healing or dispatching of foes. Fun fact, the chainsaw was originally created for childbirth. Isn't that a nice idea? Don't tell me we haven't come a long way. All right. I'll probably end up putting red on the one next to that because that'll make that pop out too. I should have noticed that earlier. That vial next to this one, put a little red on that. That'll give a great contrast. That'll look like there's some blood in there or something. Right here, I'd gotten a little too much in that crack, so I'm just taking some water on the brush and pulling off the color so that it's not, overly saturated with color there, that it pulls up too much and kills detail or anything like that. All right, we got some snakebite leather, which I put on here at first, and I didn't end up liking the way it looked. So I ended up using some uh, Steel Legion drab later over top of this, and then used the snakebite leather over top the Steel Legion drab again. And then I got the look I wanted. It was a little too light, and I didn't like the way it looked. See, there's a big pool of it there, so you'll just want to pull that out, and I'll just take and get the paint off my brush, and then start sucking that stuff off there. And maybe move it somewhere it needs to be, or get off all the stuff I need to get off, and then move it around. There you go. The thing with shades is you can work them a little bit more because they do stay wet longer. So you do have a little more time to work them. But whatever it ends up being at the end is how it's going to look. And if it's uneven at all, you're going to notice, especially if it's like you do two different drops of it or something on there, you're going to see a big difference in how it looks, and it's going to be obvious. So you want to make sure you get all this stuff just right. That's why I'm working this like crazy, and I never got this quite where I wanted it. So that's why I ended up going back over it with another color. And that's what you can do. Obviously, if something doesn't look right, just stop. Be like, all right, this sucks. I don't like the way this looks. I'm going to go back into this later. Then that's totally doable, especially if you don't, mess it up. So we got some Everland Sunset, my favorite yellow base color, especially for doing anything for Imperial Fists. Now, I did the cloak and his shoulder pad. I'd already done this before I filmed it, so there you go. It's just on there and it looks good. Yellow can be a pain sometime and you have to do multiple coats, so I didn't want to put people through that. So, but you do nice multiple even coats, you'll get a nice look like that. And it pops out so good. That's the thing with yellow, and it looks way different than the other yellow for the lights and things like that. So it looks really good. I like the way that yellow looks. It's a great base yellow, and then you can go over that with more. Now we're going to do some sticker stuff here, or transfer stuff. This is an old Imperial Fist transfer I found that looked like it'll fit on his chain fist. Now, what I like to use is some nice, just tepid water in a little bowl like this, and you'll see how I do it. I also like to use microsole and microset. That stuff works great. What you'll do is basically take a little bit of the microset and put that on wherever this is going to go. So you can just set that up on your lip there, and then get out your microsole and your microset. Start with your microset, and I'm going to put a little bit of this right there on that part of the chain fist. Now I'm looking for a bad brush. You don't want to use a good brush here. You want to use an old dirty brush because it's stuff's not good for your brush. So you just want to be able to get some on there. All right, put a little bit on there, just a little bit, and that's going to help to make this transfer stay where you put it and kind of help stick it to it. Now the microsole is like a slight acid that's literally going to help cause the transfer to mold onto the model. It's going to literally cause it to deform onto the model to the shape of the model. Basically, that's how it works. Like you'll see here, it's just going to want to stick up in the air. It's going to not, because that's not a flat surface. It's a rounded surface. So it's going to want to just look. There you go. So even with the set, that just helps get it kind of going. Now you want some tweezers or something metal to help move it around with to get it where you want it. And that set also helps to do that. It lubricates it a little bit, lets you move it around, but at the same time, it helps keep it stuck to it. All right, now you get it in place, and then you're going to get your brush and get some microsole to put over top of it. And that's what's going to start helping. You can do a little set too over top of it at first just to get it going. Just kind of smush it on there, and it'll kind of help. It'll pop off here and there, but just keep doing it. It'll get on there. And then next is the sole. Let that there. Put that away. You don't want to. You gotta be careful with those bottles because it's really easy to knock those tall bottles like that over. Especially if they're opened up, you're gonna lose half your stuff. So always close them up as quick as you can. All right. So we got our sole on there, and we're just gonna start smashing it down with that. That's gonna start causing it to actually adhere to it and and change shape. It takes it a minute. You just kind of twist and motion to get it to twist to where you want it or get it to move around a little bit. You'll see it'll start going down. Now at a certain point, you'll just have to let it sit there and it will end up taking the whole shape. It's pretty much there right now. Just keep hitting it. Twist it if you have to get it in the right spot. Get her set up. Nice. That's what we're looking for. There we go. Now let that sit, and it's gonna adhere to that just right and look great. That stuff's definitely worth getting if you're thinking about it. Okay, a little bit of lead belcher now to go over all these metal bits that we painted black earlier, especially this gun here. And I did end up going back in with a little more red, as you can see with that button there. There was a symbol on his backpack too that I put a little bit of red on that. And then the bottom of his cloak there also has the medic looking symbol, and I put some red on that too. Right now we're just working some of the lead belcher onto the gun. Then we're gonna let that dry. Get all the sides of it. But don't want to forget the butt. All right, and we're gonna work the top and the other side. All right. You see it goes on real good because of that black. It really just pops it right away. You almost don't have to do two coats, but it's good usually to do two coats of most of the paints just to get a nice coat on there. Just make sure you get all the sides and all the cracks and crevices. Don't overwork the paint. Let it dry. All right. Yeah, I'm going to put a little bit on this thing here. That's going to make that look really cool and pop out. That was already painted black too. Get our angles so we can see what we're doing. It's always about finding that angle too when you're painting a miniature, especially. There you go. Get it nice and even. Paint job and looking good. This guy's already looking great. He'd be perfect for a table almost already, especially once we finish the base. I can't uh, underemphasize how much just finishing a base on a miniature will make it look like it's finished, even if it isn't. You could probably put two colors on a miniature and then paint the base up real nice, and it would totally almost make it passable. It does a lot. It really does. Hash nut copper, another one of my favorite colors. I really like this one because it just always goes on real good and looks real good. And we're going to use this on the chain of the chain fist. Just put a nice even coat on the chain. Look how nice that looks. It pops out immediately, especially on that black. Metals, like I said, always pop on black. And if you do find anything I've said or anything in this interesting, or you enjoy this and want to see more stuff like this, please like and subscribe. Um, I would like to do more of these. I do work a 40-hour-a-week job, so I'm trying to turn it into something that maybe I could do more often. But right now, it's hard for me to do too many of these because it is a lot of work. But I do this stuff anyway, so I figure I might as well film some of it and put it on for you guys to see. But I would like to try to turn it into something more. All right. And if you have any, suggestions, like stuff you would like to see, or something you thought I could do better, or constructive criticisms welcome. Just let me know. All right. Work this a little bit more. Trying to be careful not to overwork any areas. Yep, just hit that a little bit, you see. Sometimes you can literally let it just sit there a few minutes or seconds and it'll dry pretty quick. Some stuff, if you're lucky. Some stuff doesn't, though. Steel Legion Drab. Now, this is what I used to fix his pouch because I just didn't like the way that pouch looked. Yep. See it just it wasn't it just didn't look good enough. So gave it a nice coat. Since it already had some of that stuff on there, this went on really well. And this always goes on pretty good anyway. It's one of my go-tos for pouches and canteens or any type of thing like that. Leather belts, stuff like that. I like using this a lot for that kind of stuff. It's definitely a good color. Brown oxide's also a good one for if you want a little darker of a brown or leather look. Like I said, you can take that, then take some of that snake bite leather, um, and use that over top of that, and it'll look really good. Some Bane Blade Brown. This is a paint I just got recently. First time I got it, started working with it. I really like it for ground. I definitely like it for my second shade on the ground. It definitely gives it a good mud look. I usually do a nice dry brush of something like this over top of that darker brown, which was tundra brown in this case. This is just getting a very light amount of paint on the brush after you basically put paint on the brush, wipe it off with a paper towel, and then just lightly hit it. You're basically almost dusting it. When you first start hitting it, do it sideways like that. That way, because at first there is a little bit more paint on there because it just is. And if you use it sideways at first, just the tippy tops will get hit with it. So that'll take most of the paint, which is where you want it to go anyway. And then once that happens, then you can go a little harder because you've got most of the paint off of it already onto the model. That's the way I like to do it, at least. And when you're dry brushing, since it is a dry brushing method more, it dries very fast. It almost dry as soon as you get it on there. So as long as you're working in a circle like that, you don't really have to worry too much about overworking anything. Especially with this, it's already a textured item. I mean, you're talking about the ground, so it's going to be very textured anyway. You don't have to worry too much. Next color I like to work with, and this is Xandri Dust. That's usually my next color for highlighting dirt. Basically, highlighting the dirt is what you're doing. So, get a little Xandri Dust on there, wipe it off, start hitting that. There you go. See those? Get those nice edges popping. It immediately looks better. And at the end, I like putting a nice ring of a bad black on the base itself, the round bottom of the base, just because it makes the whole model pop, and I like the glossy look on the base a little bit. It just makes it, I don't know. I just like it. Let's make sure we get it. There you go. Got some dirt. And this guy's, at this point, after you paint the base, I mean, he is ready to go rock and roll and play a game with. For sure. You could definitely go into it and detail it up some more, put some more decals on it, stickers, highlights, all kinds of stuff. More detail. But as far as just getting a medic ready for a game, you'd be ready to go. For sure. Some Hobgrot hide. This is a newer color I've gotten that I like a lot too, just for little things. I might use this for a final highlight on the base. This we're going to go very lightly just on the very tips of some things. That's going to give us our final highlight that will make this all look nice and poppy. Now you might be wondering about what about at the middle of the leg area, right? Well, with that, what I like to do usually is that's where I'll put some grass, tufts, or flock or something like that, just to break it up a bit. So next we're going to put some lichen in between the legs here. And what we're going to do with that is work it in with a Q-tip. So you're just going to take your Q-tip. I usually cut off a piece just to make it easier to work with. Or you can just use a matchstick or a popsicle stick or something like that, you know. And then this is the lichen from Army Painter. Let me get the label off there. There we go. um, anyway, so we're going to take a little chunk of this stuff. The Summer Undergrowth by Army Painter. A box of this will last you forever. You don't need a lot of it. It's very spongy stuff, and then you can work it real easy into things and glue. It holds glue real well, so it's going to stick. And you can make it look like little plants and things like that. It's very useful stuff too for just some tiny little details for base stuff. It's going to look gigantic when you first put it on there, but you'll see how I do it here to make it look right. Because otherwise it's gonna be too big and it's gonna look stupid. Because that's the whole trick with miniatures is it's gotta be little. You want the details little because they're little. If it's too big, it's gonna look too out of place. So we're gonna take a little bit of our wood glue on the end of our Q-tip and work it in between the cracks there. All right. You can see there's a big glob of glue in the middle there. And then we're going to take our piece of lichen, or summer undergrowth, as they like to call it, and just slide that right in between there. All right, now see, I mean, it looks ridiculous, right? So we can't leave it like that. So what we're going to do is take, you could use the Q-tip, you could use a piece of metal. I'm just using a file. This is a round file. Smush it in there. Get that into the the glue and into that crack in between those pieces of cork. And then that's going to just stick up through there and it's going to look like a little plant by his feet. And what that helps do, it helps hide some things there. If you're trying to hide some stuff, like that was kind of a bare area, I wanted to hide it. It was too flat looking. So the other thing we're going to use to hide it is this static grass from Army Painter. Their field grass. And we're going to take that out. You get a pinch of it in between your fingers and kind of get it to where it'll just basically when you smush it into it, it's going to stick up. It's going to look like it's sticking up like grass. You just smush it in there and it's not all going to stay. You're going to have to knock some of it loose. But you're going to want to, so you can take like that edge there and just clean that off with your finger. We're also going to fix this last little piece of this lichen down. That looks stupid like that. I don't like that. So we're going to be very careful not to let it hit any of the other area and to not get any glue on anything. Just be real careful with it. We're going to get it nice and covered in glue though so that it will stick down and just keep smushing into to where we need it to go. There we go. And then it'll be just up enough to look like maybe a vine coming out of the ground or a root or something like that. Yeah, all this stuff too, you can paint it a different color if you want to. It'll take paint well. But usually I don't need to do that. The green looks good as far as plant cover. And then this kind of hides some of that stuff and helps it all blend together with the base. And helps the base just transition a little better and not be so monotoned, or gives you a little bit more color, a little bit more going on in the base, a little more detail. Always looks nice. Make it feel a little more real. And if you have found anything useful, again, I do work a 40-hour a week job. I'd like to maybe do this one day most of the time, just put videos out every couple days of me painting up something like this. And if you enjoy seeing stuff like this, let me know. If you want to see something different, let me know. Like and subscribe, comment, do things that are going to, help the channel grow. That'd be great. Constructive criticism is welcome. All right. So we're going to stick a little bit more down. And there we have it. Just let that dry out. And you got yourself a nice Marine medic ready to patch up some Space Marines on the battlefield. Like I said, I'd still probably put a black ring around the bottom just to make it gives it that nice finished look. But other than that, this model is definitely ready to go and ready to play on a battlefield or your war table of Warhammer 40K or your favorite dark fantasy style game. I hope you all have a great day. Thank you and God bless.